Hello and welcome everyone to today's Inside Modern Data Team session. My name is Lawrence Kindling. Today I want to talk about data contracts. I think a really interesting topic, which I think sometimes is overlooked when you talk about data governance. I think most of you who work with data know this feeling of waking up in the morning or coming into the company office and just hoping that today nothing broke. No pipeline failed, no dashboard has some issues or some server issues occurred, right? So many different areas where errors can occur that you can really just hope that everything is all right. This is sometimes the feeling, but this is where the data contract comes in. Let's go a step back. What are the areas that can make these mistakes, right? Where really sometimes in the morning you come in and there are emergency things. You need to analyze everything. What happened? Why did it happen? How do I fix it? How do I get it up and running? And the next time you look on the clock, it's 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock and you make your lunch break, right? And you spend the whole morning just fixing bugs or finding the issue that happened. I think there are all different kind of things that can happen, especially when you look at the data warehouse, right? There can be changes in the source system. Someone maybe changed the data type. Someone added a new column. Someone renamed the existing column. There can be changes with the server who does the loading, right? Maybe there are some server issues, something, the server crashed, some communication errors, and the server loading didn't work. There can be issues with some deployments inside of the data warehouse team. Someone renamed the column and didn't change something upstream or downstream. There can be data type problems, data quality issues. Something comes from the stage that you didn't expect or from the source that you didn't expect like this. Or there can also be issues with the consumer teams, right? Maybe they changed something in their dashboard that they didn't want to change some naming, or even just change some logic of the dashboard and now it starts breaking. So there are all these different kinds of error points and you really need to in the end find a solution to get all this together and decide how to work with it. And this is in the end where the data contract comes in. It should help you to give a foundation in the end to bring some order into this chaos, right? And to make this bug fixing much quicker, but also make the process of development and of changes much easier for you and get some accountability into your data teams in the end. And also make it more easy to find in the end where did the problems occur, right? And find some common ground how stuff should look like. What is the data contract? In the end, the data contract, you can think of it as like a contract between the different data teams that you have in your organization. And essentially, it's kind of like a formal, in the best case, machine readable. I will talk about that later a little bit. Agreements between the data producers and the data consumers in the end. Yeah, if you think, for example, the sales dashboard, right? And the data engineering team, the data warehouse team is generating some informats. Yeah, then you have some consumers, right? Some data consumers, some reporting teams that build dashboards on top of this data, on top of this information mart. You want to define how should this relationship look like. So in the end, hey, when you deliver this data, this is exactly what it will look like. For me, in the end, I mean, there are many different options how to define a data contract, how detailed you want to be. But for me, there are pretty much 3 core elements of a data contract. The first one is for sure the schema. So you need to have a blueprint of your data. How should it look like, what you expect? So what are the data consumers expecting on this part? But also, for example, the data warehouse, they are also data consumers, right? They get the data from their source system. So what do they expect how the data looks like? There we talk about column names, we talk about data types, we talk about schema changes, even if they are slightly or really small. It can break the pipeline downstream, right? And this is what we mean a data contract should define the schema of your data. The next big part is the data quality. I mean, data quality, when you work in data warehousing or in general with data, you will have it everywhere. A lot of times you really underestimate how much data problems there are in organizations and how much you need to focus on data quality and make it a priority, right? And data quality, you should define in the end some expectations. And that goes again for the source systems, but also for the consumers in the end. For example, for the source system, requirement from the data warehouse team could be the customer ID column in a customer table should never be empty or never be null, right? There should always be a customer ID attached to a record, because this is maybe your identifying record, or in general a customer ID that should never be null. That could be one data quality requirement that the data warehouse team puts, for example, on the source system. On the other part, the reporting team maybe says, hey, the quantity of an order, right? You have order quantities. It can never be 0. You always, if you have an order, it should be at least 1, right? You can't order 0 of something, then it shouldn't be in the delivery. These are in the end essentially really some basic example of data quality requirements, but you should define some that everybody can agree on and that are useful, right, for this data contract. The last one is the service level agreement. SLAs, you know it probably from a lot of different areas. Normally, one typical example, for example, is the SLA you have between your IT service provider and the company, right? If your company has maybe an IT support, maybe they need to fix problems within, I don't know, 2 days, right? Or something like this. And in the end, an SLA is just a promise that you make to the other part of the contract, how things should be done. And this could be, for example, how fast should bugs be fixed or problems be solved. In the best case, if you have a good data contract that is machine readable, there shouldn't be any problems, right? But how fresh is your data, right? This is also a good topic for a data contract. Doesn't need to be loaded daily, weekly, monthly, real time. There's so many different options. Maybe you even have requirements for how long data can be saved, when it needs to be deleted. There can be different kinds of SLAs you agree on, but you should have some promises that one team makes to the other and the other way around. Another one could be, for example, these all really sound like data warehouse things, right? But it could also be that when the engineering team wants to make a schema change, right? So, for example, the engineering team says or puts in the tool, we want to change the column name of, I don't know, customer ID to customer number. There should be some automated process that in the end sends, for example, a notification email to the data consumers, which says, okay, guys, here they want to change this column. You have 1 week to change your dashboards. Right now, there's a new version already available, for example, with DBT, where you can test it. And on this exact date, at this time, this change will go live. So that could be, for example, an SLA as well, that the dashboarding team needs to implement schema changes required from the engineering team for whatever reason, right, in 1 week. That could be something you define as well. There are a lot of different options what you want to do in your data contract. So how should the data contract look like in practice? I already said that the data contract, in my opinion, should be machine readable. What do I mean by that? It should be automated in the sense of automated testing. It should be tested against your data, that the contract is still intact and nobody breaks it in the end. And it should have automation in place for changes, right? So, for example, if the producer team wants to deploy a change, first they have to update the contract. And maybe the contract then automatically sends out, it could be a table in your database, right? And you change something and then automatically you send an email out because there was a change. Hi, this column got updated. We want to change the name of order ID to customer number, right? So they can change their schema in the consumer teams, right? Or the other way around, the source system wants to change something. So they need to change the contract. They put it in, an automatic email goes out to your data warehouse team. They know they need to implement some change. Maybe they need to notify the consumer teams if that will have impact on them as well. But this makes it really easy for you to automate these processes and make people accountable for their data products as well, right? Because there can always be reason for change. If the source system, I don't know, maybe wants to change a column data type or add a new column, they don't do it without any reason, right? I think this is a huge benefit when you automate this stuff. Another thing is deployments. You should have CI/CD pipeline that really checks against these contracts. And when they got not updated and the updating time is not over or something, this deployment can't get through because the contract just doesn't allow it, right? There's really a lot of powerful tools how to implement this in practice and how to not have a PDF file somewhere laying around where you find a nice data contract and nobody uses it, but to have it really working in the teams and in their daily development process. The last part is forced communication in the contract. The contract should be machine readable, and in the best case, a lot of this communication is automated, but you should have something in place that the teams talk with each other. A big issue that you see a lot of times is this pushing around of they made the problem, it's because of them, and you need to have some accountability there, but it should be more a teamwork. We want to build a nice data product. We want to have reliable and trusted data. You should have some agreements that you find and have some committed goal where you all are working together to get to. And when this contract is running and tested, it's really satisfying. What is the biggest benefit of it, right? It sounds like a lot of work, especially the automation part of it. But in the end, the first big thing that you get is increased time of your developers, right? And of your different teams in general. Your quality will get much better with automated testing, with CI/CD pipelines. You will have much less problems in the end when you talk about spending time on bug fixing, spending a whole morning just looking for where was the error, why was it there, what happened. You will have much less of that. You will build trust 100%. Your data will get much more reliable for everyone to use. People know what they can rely on. They can even check the data contract and see what's up with this data, how is it refreshed, what are some data quality measures here. And it enables autonomy in the end, right? Suddenly it's not the source system, they don't want to change anything anymore or make it better because they are scared that something breaks downstream, or the engineering team doesn't want to make any improvements on their code, maybe make performance improvements or stuff because they are scared something breaks. The dashboarding team, they don't want to change anything because it was not in the initial requirement, right? Instead, it works the other way around. You have some nice process behind it. When you want to change something, the other teams get notified, they have time to implement it, and everybody is happy in the end. For sure, you should have some tracking in place. How many changes come from which people, right? And why were these changes made? Are they even useful? For example, if they change the date column in the source system to string, maybe there should already be some alarms going on, because normally in a date column, they track probably dates before. Why do they want to put in strings now? Maybe they want to use the field for something that is not meant for, right? So maybe you can also detect problems before they happen. You should have, you will gain some autonomy of the people. They can do changes on their own. They can make them safe and secure and feel comfortable with it. You may ask now, how do I get started with data contracts, right? I think the thing we always talk about when talking about projects and that we do with Data Vault since a long time, tracer bullet approach. I hope you heard about it before. Choose one use case, start small, one use case, hopefully an easy data set, and test the whole process, right? Foster collaboration, let the teams work together, not against each other. Don't make it like governance forces you to do a data contract, nobody wants it. Explain the benefits, get the people together, put time in for them, right? That they have time to implement that. Let the teams work together and find a process that works for everyone. And then the key, in my opinion, is automation, right? Get DevOps people in your projects. If you don't have them yet, it's a huge help. They can help you to automate this stuff. Get a good test suite if you don't have it. Most of your data warehouses probably have some kind of testing in place, I guess. Use that, see how you can build on that, and then for sure look for CI/CD pipelines. If you have data contracts in place, you can automate the deployments. You can stop them if they break the contract. Use that and get some DevOps help in your project. I think in the end, data contracts are a cultural shift, but also a big technical shift. A lot of time people just think about the culture part, I think, and just want to write down something in PDF. And now everybody should keep following this PDF. And if not, it's bad. You need to have the technical part as well. It doesn't work without automation and with some automated testing. Really support your teams with implementing this stuff. Bring it up. It's a really, really big benefit in your projects. And if you need some help with that, feel free to reach out. We have some really good DevOps people here at Scalefree who have done this before and know how to implement data contracts and automation. I hope you enjoyed the session and could learn something. And if you want to learn a little bit more about an overview of branching approaches and how they impact CI/CD, code quality, and maintainability, you'll find a link down below for the webinar, or just scan the QR code you can see right now and register. Thank you very much. Have a great time and see you soon. Bye bye.